story. And the brain is processing all of that information. And so when we give our children these experiences, reading out loud, it exposes them to who you are as well, which is why it's very important that when we read to our children, we use different voices because they know what your voice sounds like. But a child who is inside from the pandemic might not know what another accent sounds like. They may not understand that books can be read in Spanish. They may not have been exposed to that yet. So if you expose them to that, then you are helping them to create those chemical reactions in their brain that's going to start building back up the infrastructure in their brain so that they can continue to learn efficiently while they're in school. And I just really love the brain. That's why I really love how the brain works. And when you understand what's going on in your child's brain, then you understand how important it is what you do with your children, how important it is. Okay. So they were also more likely to communicate with a child in a warm, positive tone. Oh, okay. Parents who know more about how babies, now you parents that are online tonight have an edge over everybody else because now you understand how children's brains work. Parents who know more about how brains develop in the first week are more sensitive and responsive to their children when babies grow older. As their children grow older, they become more sensitive to their children's actions. They notice vocalizations, facial expressions, and are more likely to create opportunities for learning and development. Just like we said, if we understand what's happening in the brain and what we are doing and exposing our children to affects brain development, then we're just going to create more opportunities for that. We're not going to say, oh, you know what? I took my child to the park today and we talked about the water and we talked about the ducks and we talked about the trees. And you think you just went to the park that day with your child. But what you actually introduced to your child was the stimulus for environment and animals and nature. And so the brain processes those things. Those are new words. That is new language. That is new interaction. Therefore, it counts as a new chemical reaction in the brain. And those synapses are firing in the brain. Okay. So then we're going to talk about how parents can help. How can parents help shape children's early brain development through infancy into early childhood and well into late childhood? So how can you help? So start from birth. If you have an infant now, then, or you know someone with an infant, this is information that you can share with them. You know what? If you start reading to your child now, guess what? This is going to happen and this is going to happen. And parents always want their children to be smart, but we have to help them become smart. And the way to do that, you can start from birth by talking to your child and responding to their attempts at baby talk. Because baby talk is just basically infants, trying to form the sounds and the words that adults have been forming around them. Therefore, if you have parents who talk very soft to each other and they don't raise their voices, then you're going to have a child who probably does the same thing. If you have parents who like to raise their voices and it's just a family habit, then you'll have a child, when they vocalize, they're going to vocalize more loudly. And so that's why we have to moderate our tones when we speak to children, because the brain processes all of that. When mommy talks to me, she yells. So when I talk, I'm supposed to yell. And so we have to show our children that we moderate our voices for different reasons. They're also paying attention to how your voice changes through your different emotions. When you're angry, when you're happy, when you're sad, all that information and stimuli is getting processed by that child's brain. And they're going to use that in their working memory for future interactions with you. That's why children know how to push our buttons so well. Okay. Also, you can sing the ABC song. The ABC song is a simple song, but it does so much to activate early reading and literacy skills in your child's brain. It's a simple song, but you're singing it. You're using your voice. Your child is hearing your voice. They're learning pitch. They're learning tone. They're hearing you sing. It's all very important just through the ABC song. You can have your child use their imagination and make up stories, ask lots of questions about their invented tales. You know that they didn't go outside and fight a dragon, but you do want to ask them, what did the dragon look like? How tall was the dragon? Did the dragon talk? What was the dragon's name? What happened when you won? These are questions that's going to help them to learn how to formulate stories in their head. So when children get to first and second grade and you say, write a story, they look at you like, what? Because nobody has taught them how to think of a story to write down. And it's because we don't ask questions about their invented tales. So when we don't do that, we don't give them the experience, we don't give them the work of memory to be able to create a story to write down on paper. Sorry, there's a dog outside. Have your child use their imagination and make up stories and ask lots of questions. This helps the brain to create more creative avenues of thinking outcomes, solutions, problems, characters, etc. Doesn't always have to be a story in a book. It does not always have, I cannot express that enough. It does not always have to be a story in a book. I cannot tell you how many times I've sat in front of my class and made up a story off the top of my head. And they ask me questions and I answer them. My favorite story is, Miss Crosby, what happened to your hand? Well, I fought a bear. I fought a bear. What kind of bear was it? What color was the bear? Where was the bear? What was the bear's name? Why did you have to fight the bear? What happened? Did you use any weapons? They want to know about what happened and why you had to fight a bear. You can be as creative as you want to. And trust me, when you do this, you are giving your children so much to build on. And all it's going to do is build language, build literacy, build questioning skills, which is critical. I cannot tell you how critical it is when they get to these testing grades to understand comprehension, to understand how to answer a question, how to pull information out of a passage. And it all starts with you. It starts with how you talk to your child and have fun with it. Pick books with interesting characters. Don't be afraid to role play with different accents and voices for the characters. So if you're reading Little Red Riding Hood and it gets to the part where the wolf comes out, the wolf shouldn't sound like mommy. The wolf should sound like a wolf. And I promise you, the next time you read that story, if you don't make that voice, they're going to tell you that's not the wolf's voice. How do you know what the wolf's voice sounds like? Well, they registered it. It became their working memory when you use that voice. So be very responsible with your voices when you read your stories. When you read those interesting stories and interesting characters, then they are exposed to new words, new language. A really good story is Rumpelstiltskin. Rumpelstiltskin is not a word that you hear every day. Rumpelstiltskin, write it out, show them what it looks like, break it down, talk about funny names, think of more funny names. These are all ways to build language and literacy. And all you're doing is you're helping that brain develop faster, faster, and faster. Have your child point to pictures and words and repeat them. Simple tasks, but they do so much to help your child develop their brain and continue to activate the synapses in their brain, thereby increasing literacy development and cognitive development. Cognitive development is how they understand. So if you're reading Little Red Riding Hood and your child looks at you with a blank face, then you need to go back to the beginning and you need to try again. You can also break stories down. You don't have to read it as it is. There are some stories where there's too many words on the pages, and you know your child, you know your child's not going to listen to all that. Pick out the main points and let that be what's on that page. They can point to the characters and you can read the words you know that they'll understand. And the last thing is visit the library. The libraries now are not the libraries I had when I was growing up. I went into a library and there was a big tree in there with a little nook inside. There's pillows, there's tables, there's chairs, there's stuffed animals. It's colorful and it's creative and it's inviting. And so the libraries that children have now simulate a classroom if you don't have a classroom for your child to go to. If you want your child to go interact in a classroom-like environment, a library is the perfect place to take them, because there they can go and choose the books that they want to read and know that they can sit down in their own environment with child-sized furniture, inviting pictures, and they can engage in that story. I can't express enough how big of a resource the library is. And we have plenty of libraries here in Greensboro. I really do encourage parents to go into the library, get them their own library card so they can check their books out and they can take their books home. You are creating responsibility And you are also creating working memory in your child's brain because they're learning the process to check out a book and they're learning about responsibility. Um, in conclusion, everything you say and you do, your child's brain is hearing. They may not process it consciously, but the brain heard you. Even when you say things under your breath, your brain, the child's brain hears you. Negative words, if you're going to say negative things about your child, do not say them in front of your child. Trust me, they remember every negative word that you say about them, and their brain remembers. And they pull those working memories out when they have another interaction like that. And so that's all I have this evening. And I know it was a lot. I know it was a lot, but there's so much information on the brain and how it relates to the development, literacy with children and how they develop. If I can do another workshop at a later date, I will, but I just wanted to give you a base knowledge of how the brain works, what the brain looks like, what's happening in the brain, and how it helps develop literacy skills. Thank you, Ms. Erica, for inviting me to speak this evening. Did anybody have any questions? I don't think we have any questions, Ms. Erica. I think that's it.
Sherry, that was awesome. You know, when you said the library, I kind of got excited.
Yeah.
Has anyone on here been to McNary Library off of Lake Jeanette? It's a really cool library. It has a ship. They have a ton of kid-sized furniture. They have a swing. I mean, it's like a playground in the inside of the library. Awesome.
Yeah, libraries are cool now.
It's we might have to take another trip, but we haven't been there in a while. Well, since COVID. But yeah. So thank you so much, Sherry.
You're welcome.
And, this was really good. So if I ever decide to have children now, I know.
if anybody wants any of the information, the schematics or the diagrams that I used tonight, I can always send them to you. If they ask for them, just let me know and I'll send them to you. Because there's a lot of research out there and you kind of get a little confusing when you dig into it yourself because you don't kind of know where to start. And so if anybody wants a starting point, then just let me know and I'll send you the information.
Okay.
That's not half of what's out there, but it's a good base of it.
I know we'll have to revisit this topic again. So, all right. So if no one has any questions, no. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sherry, and I'll send you the link.